if you don't engage the workforce and specifically middle management as well in how that design is actually formulated and carried through, that's where you'll probably end up in a little bit of difficulty. So
I'd love to kick it off by asking you to introduce yourself and the company that you run.
Sure. My name is DesmondWilliams. I am the co-founder of an organization called Agile. And basically, we are an organization that helps companies get closer to their customers through organizational development interventions as well as agile methods.
And you've obviously been doing that for many years, but what a year to be a practitioner in the work that you do. Yeah. And what's the task ahead for your company?
So really, we're seeing a very large interest in organizational design and development. But I think really a lot of people think that organizational design is just doing a new organizational structure or writing a new policy. But it's a lot more than that. It's actually about collaborative approaches and in terms of how you would work with the staff to come up with solutions which allow you to end up being closer to the customer.
And has there been a inspired action that you have observed in the industry or that you guys have chosen to take?
A case study would be perhaps maybe in relation to the one client who was going through a large cultural transformation, prompted actually by the COVID situation that we have. And they approached it primarily from a senior management perspective, whereby they were looking at redesigning structures. But when they contacted us, they had the realization or the epiphany that the organizational development aspect was actually something which they had neglected to include. You could have the most sexiest organizational design strategy and structures and systems, but if you don't engage the workforce and specifically middle management as well in how that design is actually formulated and carried through, that's where you'll probably end up in a little bit of difficulties.
And what's your top tip with regards to engaging that mid-level?
The top tip really is horizon scanning, but it really is getting all of the stakeholders in the room. And when I mean stakeholders, I just don't mean the senior people or even the next level down, but sometimes influencers in the organization, which may not have a title, but have key information and key influencing ability to make the right decisions and have a consensus approach to the journey ahead. Getting as many people involved as you can is a good idea, because whatever consequences happen down the line, and let's be honest, with the environment that we're working in, that may mean redundancies, or it may mean redeployment, it may mean a very serious conversation. But like we both agree, having a consensus, if you can get it with the lowest levels of staff that you can, is really half the battle in terms of change management. Yeah.
And is there a tool or framework that you would tend to use when embarking on an organizational design project?
The dark arts of organizational design, different frameworks are chosen for different types of organizations, different sizes, different levels of complexity, whether they're bureaucratic, whether they're more flat. One that we found is actually that is quite easy to apply and has a lot of commonality across industries is McKinsey's 7S model. And McKinsey's 7S model nicely divides up the organizational design and organizational development piece. So on the organizational design piece, you have systems, structures, and then you have strategies and business strategies. So those are what we call the hard S's. And then the soft S's, which are like the soft skills or things that are traditionally seen as actually being enablers to strategy. And then the final S is related to shared values. So are the values of the organization congruent or similar to individual values? So what we find typically here is that organizations very often have these values that nobody remembers, nobody lives, nobody refers to. So this is a key part in our work is aligning and sometimes redesigning those values to make them more real for staff.
And how do companies continue to champion that people first message in a year like this, where what they may be facing is restructuring and redundancy?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think, this whole idea of people first, and, in my business, when the people that I talk with, the CEOs and senior leaders, yes, they do acknowledge the people first, and an organization is only as good as the people that work in it. But their mindset is more towards the spectrum of, well, customers first. And then they use the people first agenda as kind of a people second approach. I know that sounds a bit odd, But is the people actually being more of an enablement of the customer first approach? And so I think, what does that mean for people in general that work in the organization? What that means is essentially that people themselves have to be more adaptive. What I'm seeing actually, especially in the financial services sector, whereby there's a lot of disruption in fintech, it's more to do with, well, you don't have to be a finance person to work here. What you do have to be is to be open-minded, to be adaptable, to bring skills that we do need to help us perhaps adjust to the fintech competitors that are out there. I'm seeing actually in large multinational finance organizations just down the road in Raffles Place, that they're employing actually individuals who've never worked in banking, but have worked in tech. Yeah.
They call that, is it tech fin or fintech?
Fintech.
Apparently there's a difference, yeah.
Oh, tech fin, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you, Desmond, for sharing your thoughts with us today. I mean, we're just literally scratching the surface in what we have time to chat about.
So true.
But I know you're an expert and work deeply into this area. Thank you.
It's my pleasure. It's very nice talking with you. Thank you.